And they have a definition of gambling in this policy or law. Let me read it with you. It's not on the screen. Gambling means risking anything of value for return, or risking anything of value upon the outcome of a contest, game, gaming scheme, or gaming device which return, when the return or outcome is based on an element of chance and is in accord with an agreement or understanding that someone will receive something of value in the event of a certain outcome. Gambling includes a lottery and fringe gambling. And interesting, it states this: gambling does not include a lawful business transaction. You know, some people say, well, I just made a gamble. I bought insurance. Well, I can tell you one thing. If I define gambling as a risk, just simply a risk, we all gamble. You might say, I took a gamble when I married Anik, that she will remain sweet and unique. But the truth is, I have Anik. You got me? But when you pay $1, you don't have a thing. Nothing. You're hoping you will have it. When I stood at the altar, Anik attended my wedding. She was there. So I have her. So it was a good gamble. If you wouldn't say gambling is a risk. She's still with me. Yes, sister. So gambling violates principles of stewardship. Work for what we do. This doesn't rule out that you cannot receive a gift. This doesn't rule out that you cannot receive an inheritance. I wish someone could give me something sometimes. In fact, we always dream, what if I got $1 million? And I always fantasize, I said, if someone gave me $100 million, I would give away literally $90 million, put $5 million for savings for my retirement, and then help the family out with another $5 million. I couldn't keep the $90 million. But I wonder if that would truly happen if I got $100 million. Let's go on. Again to the statement. Gambling has a massive impact on society. I want someone to find those two passages on the screen. So when I get to them, I want you to stand up and read them for us, please. That's 1 Thessalonians 4 and the other one, while I read this statement. Financial costs result from crime committed to pay for gambling habit, increased policing, the legal expenses, as well as associated crimes involving drugs and prostitution. Gambling does not generate income. Rather, it takes from those who often call in ill, afford to lose, and gives to a few winners. The greatest winner, of course, is being the gambling operator. Now, you know the richest man in Nassau almost. He's not the richest. They think he's not the richest. But you know one of the richest men in Nassau. We don't want to call his name. Okay? And we're those who are at the shops. Are they getting rich? I know of someone that told me, I need some food today. I go into the web shop. They made $500. They went and bought their groceries. And so they went back next week. They owe $500 now. They lost plenty. The idea of gambling operations can have a positive economic benefit if that's an illusion. In addition, gambling violates the Christian sense of responsibility for family, neighbors, the needy, and the church. Someone stand up and read 1 Thessalonians 4:11, please. Anyone? 1 Thessalonians, yes. Mind your own business, work with your own hands. Wow, thank you so much. That speaks for itself. Is that gambling? Well, what? Too many people gambling? Why we can't say, mind own business is not that we must be selfish. Okay? Or arrogant. Make sure you work with your own hands, govern what you have well. Manage it well. Okay? 2 Corinthians 9, 8, and 9. Who has that? Could you stand up, please? And shout out. Stand up, ma'am, and let me hear you, ma'am. So the bottom line of the text is God, we depend on God. He gives us power, He gives us grace, and we don't exploit it by throwing it away through any form of gambling. We'll see what that means in a minute. Gambling creates false hopes. The gambling dream of winning big replaces true hope with false dreams of statistically improbable chances of winning. And one day I read a research, which we're not going to talk about, how these mega gambling institutions do their stuff. They design so you could lose. $30 billion out of the 214 gambling casinos in North America in 2007, they made $30 billion. How many people won? How many people won? Christians are not to put their hope in wealth. The Christian hope is a glorious future, promised by God, is a sure certainty, unlike the opposition to opposition to the gambling dream. The great pain that the Bible points to is godliness with content. 1 Timothy 6:17. Someone read that, please. 1 Timothy 6 and verse 6 and 17. 1 Timothy, someone can read that for me, please? Chapter 6, verse 6 and 17. Timothy, chapter 6.
But godliness with contentment is great gain. Verse 17. Charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded.
Okay.
Nor trusted in uncertain riches.
Okay. So, people who have a lot of money, make sure that they are humble, not arrogant, and they have a responsibility to use that money well. Gambling tends not to do that. Are you playing cards underneath the Sabbath tree on Saturday night? Are you buying raffle tickets? Are you going to the slot machines? Are you going to the web shops and putting your $1 or $5 or whatever in and making your money? Gambling is addictive. The addictive quality of gambling is clearly incompatible with Christian lifestyle. And I will share with you quickly very briefly, how we get addicted to gambling, some people. The church seeks to help, not blame those suffering from gambling or the addiction. Christians recognize that they are responsible before God and their resources and lifestyle. And we know 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19 and 20. But I'm going to go on. Listen now. The Adventist Church organization does not condone raffles or lotteries to raise funds, and it urges members not to participate in any such activities, how well intentioned. Now, sitting in Solomon's this morning, and most likely, is the Red Cross people. And they have their annual raffle. Now, I wouldn't want to ask you how many Adventists buy Red Cross raffles. I have never bought any. I was taught not to. But every time not every time, when I pass there, I do support the Red Cross. I give them $1. I said, no, thank you. I just would like to give a donation. The Bahamas Conference gives donation to the Red Cross. Now, I don't do this. I am very sorry, ma'am. I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. I don't gamble. I'm sorry, ma'am. No, that's arrogance. That's stupidity. You might even be worse than those people, who are doing that. So as Adventists, we teach not to participate in bazaars, and that's what you call them, and raffles, games of chance. I know I want the car badly. You can look at mine and say that, but I can't do that. Neither does the church condone state-sponsored gambling. The Seventh Adventist Church calls on all authorities to prevent the ever-increasing availability of gambling. I want you to notice that statement here. The ever-increasing availability of gambling with its damaging effects on individuals and society. I can take that statement out of that phrase, out of that context there, and say the church is recognizing that gambling exists, but say, let us do our best not let us do our best so it would not increase. The Seventh-day Adventist Church rejects gambling as defined above and will not solicit nor accept funding that is clearly derived from gambling. So, if Mr. George Harrington comes to me with $10 million and he's only a gambler merchant, that's all he is, and offered me for Bahamas Academy, I will not accept it. Barrington Brennen. If I openly know that he is getting that illegally, I cannot accept it. And the church says we do not do it. Now, I hope it is clear. What I believe and what your church believes and teaches about gambling in all forms. Let me see if I have it on the screen. Look up here. I made a list of the different kinds of games of chance. And some of us don't even know them. I never played any. Bingo, and of course there are vegetarian bingo games without money. Bingo, raffles, spread betting, that's another interesting casino thing. Slot machines, online gambling, and there are many of games in that. Using card games under the Ponciana tree every Saturday night. And for money. I'm talking about the card games themselves, for money, necessarily. Crap, roulette, blackjack, baccarat, poker, lotteries of all kinds. I hope you understand that, because these games violate the principle of Christian living. Gambling has a great potential of being addictive. And those who are addicted to gambling are called pathological gamblers. The modern term, we say compulsive gamblers. And, we can make a lot of arguments about gambling. But let me share. Psychologist Rebecca Roth, you can go to the next screen, says this: compulsive gambling is a behavior. Listen to how gambling affects the brain, which may rely on brain circuits that evolved to help animals assess rewards important to their survival. Researchers have found that those same circuits are used by the human brain to access social rewards. They found that the brain system that detect and evaluate such rewards generally operate outside the conscious awareness. I know that may sound a little heavy for you. That means they operate, you may not even be aware about it. See, that's why the addiction comes in. The study said that much of what happens in the brain goes outside of conscious awareness. There are automatic brain circuits which affect activities such like gambling. For these observations, it looks like winning in gambling can affect the dopamine, D-O-P-A-M-I-N-E, system, similar to the neural circuitry involved in high and lows during drug abuse. So the same drug called dopamine was impacted. What happens when people take a high on a drug? So therefore, people can become addicted to gambling. And when a gambler wins, whether it's $500 or $1,000 or $500,000, that dopamine rush is just like when someone took cocaine for the first time and they got to go back to try to get it again. The first win, this rush, is embedded deep in the memory. And according to the study, gamblers keep gambling, and the occasional dopamine rush of winning overrides listen to this, overrides their conscious knowledge that they will lose in the long run. Unconsciously, they got to keep on going. You see, one thing about gambling, people who win large sums of money usually cannot live a normal life. Strange family members come out of the woods. Winners have to change their identity. Some people say they increase their drinking, they increase on drugs. Other research which came out of England this year talked about people live happily. Gamblers who win money have helped men. wonderful mental health. But as you read the research further, you find out that that only lasts for the first 1 or 2 years and then it wears off. So then, brothers and sisters, gambling can impact the brain function. That's why people want to go back and gamble. Since gambling is just a matter of putting in 50 cents or $1 or $5 at numbers stuff, we are number people. And sometimes, not me and you now, but sometimes I get sick and tired of hearing some of us referring to it, promoting numbers in our church pulpits. Not directly, by the way. We make fun of it. I want to keep numbers out of your head. So I'm not going to always refer to it. But you know why this thing about numbers? Bahamians are very superstitious. That's why we mingle with the spirit world.